Well, I mean, first and foremost, I'd say when you get a video game script, it looks differently on the page in terms of the format. You know, you'll have a well, it's often set out with just your lines and not the other characters, which can be quite confusing sometimes. And that this is done for different reasons, partly to do with secrecy. The video game world can be very secretive, and with good reason, because you know there are a lot of fans out there of particular companies' work, and they like to know what's coming, and so often as an actor, you're in the dark about a lot of the script. You don't necessarily know what's always going on in sort of the overall story, because for fear of you giving things away, or yeah, and also just to kind of focus you on that scene. Also, things change in the development of the game. You know, I've been in for games where you record something and then you come back in maybe a couple of months later and you're on the same scene, but you re-record it and the lines have changed quite a lot because the story's changed further down the line. So yeah, and also there's quite often there are rewrites that are left till literally could be sort of hours before you go in and record. They've changed the dialogue. So when you get like a film script or a television script, it's usually sort of locked down by a certain date, and you might, once you've been cast, there'll be like a cast read through where you all turn up together, and there might still be some changes, but ultimately the story stays pretty much the same. But yeah, I mean, I've been in for video games, and I've been there going, I have no idea what's going on, and sometimes you're recording off bits of paper, and you're recording off a screen in front of you, a television screen, and they put the lines on it, and they'll say, right, after the beep, say your line, and it will come up on the screen. It'll immediately go beep, and you're like, oh god, what am I reading? You have no idea, it's so it involves a lot of improvisation, really. You have to just be on your toes and sort of alert, because and just kind of go for it a lot of the time, and then the director will say, no, this situation is not quite as terrifying as you played that line, you don't really need to be so frantic, you can kind of chill out a bit. Because yeah, quite often you don't necessarily know what's going on in the scene, and that's why there is a director there to tell you. Well, I mean, partly what I was just explaining with the difference in the scripts. For an actor, it's important just to know as much about the character and their story as possible, because you are trying to create something that's believable and that people will care about, and you don't want to do a bad job. You want to do as best a job as you can, and so in order to do that, you need the developer and director to kind of give you as much info as possible, and they know what they're doing, and they guide you in that process of making sure that you're when it's an intimate scene, like unless a character's died or whatever, that that you've got the right tone, or if you're playing a character that's considerably younger than yourself. I mean, like, I'm 30 and I did the voice of Tintin, who's meant to be like 16, and I mean, I think I have a kind of sort of younger sounding voice anyway, but you have to make sure that the director has to make sure that you're staying in the right kind of age zone, because it can be quite easy, especially in a long recording session, to just slip out of it and just kind of forget that you're doing this sort of very youthful and energetic 16-year-old boy, rather than tired and slightly hungry, grumpy 30-year-old. What should potential directors consider? I don't know. Just consider that the actor often doesn't know what's going on in the scenarios, and just to make them very clear, even if you can't give them, give away the whole story, for secrecy or whatever, but give them as much as you can, much information about what's going on in the scene and how the character should be behaving, and and also just consider that sometimes actors are nervous, even if they've worked a million times with the same person, there's something about kind of getting up and performing, it can be a bit nerve-wracking, and you just try your best to put the actor at ease, because you do your best work when you feel more comfortable. Being in fear doesn't produce a good performance, and there's no reason for it's the actor who's creating it. It's not like the director is likely to be nasty or anything, but just be aware that actors are sensitive souls and sometimes need reassurance and TLC. Wow, that's quite a personal, intrusive question, isn't it? Well, it depends what it's for. For video game work, and it's going to sound big, and it can vary, but I would say on average you get about £200 an hour. Now, yes, that can be fantastic if you're, let's say, doing a 4-hour session and you're doing that maybe 4 times in a week. But yes, that does happen, but it doesn't happen all the time, and sometimes you have to make that money last. And also remember that your agent is taking 15% of that, and that you've got to put aside some money for tax and national insurance, it can go remarkably quickly, and you can. But I mean, it's amazing. Yeah, you can sometimes earn a load of money in a week, or in a month's period. You might kind of get a game where you're like, oh right, so this is going to last a whole month. I'm going to make this much money. Fantastic. That should keep me alive for such and such a time, if I don't get anything else. Because there are times when there's nothing happening, and it's nobody's fault. Your agent is sending you up for stuff. Casting directors are just, I don't know, seeing other people, or as has been the case with voiceovers, that they're doing certain types of games where they're just using lots of Americans, or they're using lots of children's voices or something like that, and that's something that's out of your control as an actor. You are quite often relying on other people to go, yes, you, come in. Which is sad. It would be nicer to have more control over that, but there are it's a very small percentage of actors who can call the shots.